Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. This is a bit of a weird setup, obviously. I'm this tiny little bubble on the screen and the screen is like a completely different resolution from what it normally is. As you can see, I'm actually between two doors here because I'm currently in Japan. It's currently what, 12:50, no, 11:50 a.m. JST, and we're about to head over to Kyoto tomorrow. No, Kyoto tomorrow from Nagoya. So today I want to go through the banlist that dropped yesterday, and obviously this is a bit of a scuffed video, but I wanted to make it anyways because I feel like it's quite important to talk about. Let me see if I can change. No, I can't change that. To talk about the implications of the banlist, and obviously if I get back, when I get back in like 2 weeks' time, it's a bit late. So I might as well talk about it now, right? Okay, let's jump into it. So the list itself, it is going to be effective from, I think it was 2 days time for two specific regions. I think that was the US and the French YCS maybe. I think that was the reason why they got the list at a different time. As for us, Australians and the rest of the world, I believe we'll be getting ours in like 2 weeks time. So yeah, April the 15th in, okay, never mind. North and Latin America will be getting this on April 15th. We'll be live then, and then the rest of the world will get theirs in a week's time after that. Okay, let's jump into the list. So I'm gonna jump through the list first, look through it. This is the official Twitter page, of course. So yeah. So forbidden, newly forbidden, Link Karibo, Baron, Borrow Load, and Summon Limit. Maybe I'll go through the list first, and then I'll talk about how it will affect Sprite. Because indirectly, even though they're not part of any lists that we play, it does affect, how the deck will perform, right? So Link Karibo, first of all, stops, let's say, things like Valen Imperm. If Link Karibo is in the graveyard and you're trying to Velo Imperm like an Ash, and it's like turn 2 or 3, or maybe Link Karibo is already in the graveyard and you decided to hand them later, then obviously Link Karibo can be used to dodge that. Otherwise, it can also be used to protect maybe an Appaloosa from getting attacked. So, okay. What else does it do? It also stops Dino players from going into Link Karibo Secure Gardener into like the pill, right? But aside from that, also cheap SPs for the Viking or Snake Eye players. I keep saying Viking, but Snake Eye players, they can't just go into Link Karibo plus any other body for a free SP banish. Now Baron the Floor banish. No, sorry, Baron the Floor being banned is actually huge because that stops a lot of decks from being able to make a generic level 10 Omni-Negate, which is amazing. Amazing in a sense that, well, we don't play, so we don't care. It just means that there's one less thing to deal with, even though we did have Typhon for that originally. Sucks for the decks that did play them. And then Brawler, Savage Dragon, similar situation where they're kind of like removing the Omni-Negate. It's kind of interesting to see, by the way. But those two being removed, it does mean that the Biru is going to be a lot stronger. A lot of decks did end up making an Omni-Negate by turn 5 just so that they had some kind of protection against Nibiru, but obviously if that's not an option anymore, then they have to be, more careful. They have to play through a different line, or maybe they have to turn to decks that have some kind of a monster negate, such as Sprite Red, right? And then something about being banned. I'm surprised it's not being limited instead of banned, but maybe that's like, yeah, look, I have no justification. Sure, that's fine. Take away something, I don't care. It's pretty hard to play through for us, even though we did try at some point. Well, I did at least. Okay, now newly limited. It's funny how the list was somewhat accurate. The April Fool's video that I made was a little bit accurate. Some of the hits that I mentioned at the time, you'll see later on, was actually correct. Didn't expect any of these. So Protoss being limited does actually come in. I think I'll talk about that a little bit later because we can potentially play Protoss, but it's a bit iffy. And I'll talk about why in a second. Tidal, that was to be expected. Colossus was very interesting as well. So Colossus, obviously, you're able to special summon it if you control a Thunder monster, and that you've used a Thunder monster in hand as well. So sprite cards being Thunder does not affect this because you don't activate your cards to special summon them from your hand. The only card that does activate in hand is going to be what do you call it? Pixies. Pixies is the one. Yeah, the one where during the damage step you can discard it and then like the attack boost and everything. Then Kirin's back as well. Magic back to Unicorn Kirin. Chicken Game's back to 1. Chicken Game is a bit of like a stally card, right? So the thing is, I wasn't really around when Chicken Game was in use, so I don't know what the full power of it was. I'm assuming it's just a bit of a cancerous card in a sense where you just get to stall a lot, similar to maybe Mystic Mine, but I'll have to see to truly understand. And then there's Anti-Spell Fragrance, back to, well, not back to, but limited to 1. Makes a lot of sense to be expected. Every other floodgate aside from some limit has been hit down to 1, so it only makes sense that Anti-Spell also follows. That sucks a little bit. The reason why it sucks is because I feel like Sprights as a deck is too vulnerable to simple board breakers, right? Cards like Dark Ruler No More was at least somewhat counterable with Anti-Spell or maybe like something else. Like, not counterable. Okay, Anti-Spell is the only card that counters it for our deck. I also found that playing some rogue decks or some newer players, it's pretty funny when you make a big board just for your entire board just get wiped away by 1 Raigeki or 1 Dark Hole. And some decks just can't beat that, right? Sprite being one of those if you don't have a carrot up or if you don't have like multiple negations up. Negations? Is that a word? Negates up, assuming you don't, like we can't even make any other negates aside from Herald if they don't commit to a summon. If they drop down like 2 board breaker, board clear spells, then like you're kind of boned. So Anti-Spell being hit down to 1 kind of sucks a lot. Our deck also didn't run too many spells, so it was quite nice to have first, but we need to look for like a better going first card now in response to this ban list here. So we might run, so I looked into it, I thought about it, right, like on the spot. Maybe something like D-Barrier, depending on how the meta turns out. After LEDE, we could consider D-Barrier because the Tenpai Dragons will obviously be synchro summoning a lot, but at the same time, Fire... Here I am again saying the same thing, right? Not Fire King. Snake Eye decks are still going to be quite prominent, especially the Snake Eye Fire King build. See, now it actually matters. Snake Eye Fire King, which obviously does not summon anything except links for the most part. Yeah. Alright, the next part is semi-limited. So Armageddon Knight is back to 2, and then Pearly Delicious Memory is back to 2 as well from limited. Both of those were originally limited. Armageddon Knight, I wasn't around again when it was at full power, or when it was being used the most to warrant it being hit down to 1. Maybe during the TOS format, maybe it has to do with like the all-cost cards. Delicious Memory, having the cats have that spell back means that you're gonna have to run over bigger bodies, more stats. Maybe it'll push it past the point where it's past 3k and then you can drop a Typhon that actually does something that actually stops the fat cat from getting through. But even then, you don't really have a way to get through as a sprite player unless you run Pixies. Maybe the core is to run Pixies, to run over towers, ignore the background noise, sorry. But probably not the right play. I don't think so. Delicious Memory kind of sucks. That's back at 2 for us. Okay, now Unlimited. Mally is back at 3, Harp Horror is back at 3, Terratop back at 3, Engage back at 3. So we jokingly guessed that Engage and Terratop will come back to 3, and Limp Hold it did. Harp Horror back to 3 is fine. I don't feel like the deck is doing too much. And Mally back to 3 is great for the 3 hero players in the world. Plus, I guess T if they really want to play Mally. It does mean like, 1 more extra body, so that's great for them. Terratop is just consistency, I think. You have 1 more starter. Special summon it, special another one, or add another one. Haven't read that card in a while. Engage back to 3 is good for them. Striker is going to be more formidable, and if we do play against Striker, it's kind of rough if you go first because they can just slowly chip away at your board, and now they have Engage at 3, so they can search whatever they want, plus more follow up and more card draw if they have 3 spells in the grave ready. But obviously, you guys know how that works. And an anti-spell back at 1 means you have 1 less response or 1 less answer to their deck, which is it is what it is. All right, now let's talk about sprites in the upcoming meta. I have my notes to the side here. Again, this was very impromptu, so it is what it is. So we could consider changing the deck, which obviously the current build, if you haven't seen my videos, is to play like a very hand trap heavy build aside from the super polys as a board breaker. I think that might have to change depending on what decks stay dominant. So if the rest of the meta changes to a point where a deck that loses to hand traps becomes the top deck, then we're okay. But if it changes to the point where the meta deck loses to board breakers, then we are kind of in trouble because we also lose to board breakers, especially cards like Dark Ruler No More. I don't quite think that Dark Ruler No More will be a meta card anytime soon, which is good for us. So should be okay. But if they run multiple hand traps, yeah, like multiple hand traps are fine for us because we can always play through hand traps sometimes, given the right hand. But yeah, maybe we'll change our deck to a board breaker deck, meaning we can play some going second cards again. I remember like ages ago I played like a power spell version. I even ran like thrusts and evenlies for fun as well, and it worked out like every now and then, right? But now I feel like evenly's just a little bit too slow for our deck. But we'll see how that goes. Board breaker cards, other ones include cards like, I think Droplet will be a great one. And on the topic of Droplet, I feel like Droplet will be a really good card because it hits a couple of cards that I feel like should have been banned. So in that April Fool's video, there was Sanctifier that definitely should have been banned. There was also Calamity. So I feel like hitting the Crimson Dragon with the Droplet will stop them from going to Calamity if it really matters. Otherwise, you can just Zeus them anyways. But if they imperm your mosquitoes, then you're kind of burned as well. So having that answer to being locked is always nice. So maybe Droplets again, Talents, Thrusts. Aside from that, maybe even Change of Heart, Mind Control. Maybe we can just go to like a full going second build, which would be quite viable, especially against Tenpai. Yeah. Checking my notes again. Oh yeah, Nibiru. Nibiru being played a lot in the format is obviously going to be because, well, first of all, I didn't mention, yeah, I did talk about it, about Baron and Borreload being banned, right? Because those two are banned, people have less answers, which means that combo decks are now going to fear Nib, and Nib is also going to do a lot more because some of the cards that were unbanned require quite a few summons, for example, Thunder Dragons. And so you can just throw a Nibiru out there, stop their turn, and then if they don't have follow up, then it fully ends their turn. Which means that more Nib will be in the format, which is good for us because Gigantic obviously just counters that completely, assuming you can get to some to the summon by the fifth turn. By the fifth summon, sorry, what am I saying? It's really late here, I'm tired. Yeah, so Sprite seems pretty viable, given that we can play around Gigantic, around Nibiru. And I will talk about how the deck will play out a little bit more after LED drops, but right now this is mainly just about the ban list. What other cards? Oh yeah, also Econ seems to be a pretty nice card to run, potentially. All these like quick play spells they can chain Droplet to send for cost, so you basically make nothing. Alright, now some other small things to talk about when it comes to the cards that were unbanned, right? So I've seen some things going around about Colossus. So the fusion, let me just go back to the limited page. So Thunder Dragon Colossus, obviously the Drawn Lockbird equivalent for your opponent only, and it's pretty easy to summon if you're playing a Thunder deck, but you know, you only have so many cards that we can play. So people are thinking about Nemesis Corridor, people buying that thing out like crazy. A super rare costing $15 US dollars is just kind of ridiculous. You can play it, but you also, I believe the Corridor summoning requirement was to have a card banished and then you like return it to your deck or something. That's all the Nemesis cards, right? That's kind of hard to do for us now because we don't really banish any cards aside from like Ronin back in the day. You like banish a Swap Rock and then bounce back to your deck. What other things get banished? Look, it's been a while since I played. Maybe a Fee Shifter. If you still want to run Shifter, by the way, then yeah. But I think if we're playing with Droplet in the main, we'll probably move Shifter to the side again. Even though Fights will still be prominent, if there's still the like T1 contending deck, then maybe we'll keep it in the main again. But again, time will tell for how the format shapes out. So Nemesis Corridor, that was like some combo on Facebook. Nemesis Corridor into a Muddy Mud Dragon, into like, well, it's like Deep Sea Diva as well, into Colossus. I think that's just way too clunky for like a drawn lockbird, and you lose really, really hard to nib, so it's not worth it. Nemesis Flag is also a card that was run in the past. You could run Flag with the Shatters. I remember trying that during the tier format. It was very hard to manage, but you know, you can pull it off. So Flag is coincidentally 8/2 as well, and again at the time you could return your Sword Frog to summon the Flag, and you'd have a free 2 body, and then you could search out the Shadows, and now you can search out the Protoss as well with Nemesis Flag. So I think a little bit not great, because you play into Nib. It's really the question of, can I make Gigantic by 5 summons? But if you make Gigantic by 5 summons and it's successful, then you can't summon the rest of it anyways, because you're locked into 2s. Same thing goes to a starter. If you start with the starter only, the rest of the package, the Nemesis package, just becomes, you know, full of bricks. So probably not great as well. Yeah, I think that's about all I want to talk about right now. Maybe other variants that we can consider. I remember someone posting in the comment section as well to try Pearly Sprite out. Seems like a pretty fun deck. I'll have to wait until Rarity Collection 2 to pick that up to try out, because right now I do not want to spend with Rarity Collection right around the corner on cards that will be printed in like super rare, ultra rare, in high quantities, low costs. And yeah, I'll probably make another video when LED drops with the Ice Barrier cards, where we can make another Toad. Very big. It's quite unfortunate that we didn't get Elf or Running back, but it is what it is. We just have to wait for another list. And again, shame that Konami didn't ban those 2 cancerous cards, Sanctifier and Hot Red, and didn't really touch the fire stuff either, but it is what it is. Alright, till next time guys, see you.